Ammar, how is it going?
Man, it's going. We took a bit of a break. No, we are back after a 2 week break. Have you enjoyed your time off?
I have, but I'm sure everyone's tired of not having us around. See what I did there?
Everyone's given up. We've been so inconsistent in the last couple of months. We've been about as inconsistent as a rookie Formula One driver on
It
this grid.
it's true, but with more crashing. I mean, look, we might just be talking to ourselves tonight, Ammar, but that's okay. We've still got a lot to talk about.
All
Um,
right.
there was a race this weekend, the
Okay.
British Grand Prix, the 75th running of the British Grand Prix, Silverstone. I mean, does it come any more epic? Genuinely, Amar, I think that Silverstone, and this isn't me just exposing my British
Uh-oh.
bias, but I do genuinely think that Silverstone is in my top two greatest Formula One tracks, and certainly a highlight of the year for me in terms of racing. What do you think?
The other one being who? What, rather?
Interlagos. I love
Interlagos.
Interlagos.
Okay. Yeah, I'd put Suzuka in there too, but yeah, sure.
But yeah, but Suzuka doesn't have the like you can't overtake, man.
I mean, yeah, I think the beauty of this race, and I 100% agree with you. Nothing throws up more drama than the British Grand Prix, in part because of your English summer. I mean, in that race, there was like
Four
all
seasons, I know, it's
compounds used
ridiculous.
outside of the wet weather tires. And I was like, well, at some point, it looked like it might just be full wets too. Who knows?
Yeah, I know,
And the only reason the wets are not being used is they're not raceable tires. Otherwise,
right?
another version of the
It's
wets
just a
might be
safety car tire, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that was a fun race. It was a long race. I was surprised they got it all done in 2 hours. At one point, it looked like we might be here. We might not be able to get all 52 laps in. So that it was an amazing race, and it was a race of mixed fortunes, as you and I will talk about it. It was quite fun race, quite an enjoyable one. A good way to head into the summer break, really.
Yeah, I can't believe we're back and we're going to be off again for another 3 weeks. Unbelievable. Um, uh, so what I wanted to do was just talk about some of the highlights of the race. And there were some bad moments, that sad down moments about where we could talk about how there was a bit of underperformance and maybe a bit of unfairness. I don't know. See what you think. But I thought we would start with the good news first. That's right. Nico Hulkenberg, after 239 race starts, ends up on the lowest step of the podium. Congratulations, Nico Hulkenberg. What a
And he
drive.
gets the Lego trophy too. Look at that.
He does get a Lego trophy. I mean, it couldn't have been better. You can literally turn it into whatever you want. And he was seriously magnanimous about it as well, didn't he? He said he was going to let his kid have it. Brilliant. That's
No,
if
brilliant. And,
that's if
and the,
Sauber don't take it off him first.
That's what I was gonna say. If your boy Mattia doesn't take it already, but you know who deserves it more than him? It's his daughter. I just seeing her
Oh,
reaction.
that was so
That
cute.
was so amazing. That's probably the pinnacle moment of the, to be honest.
It was super cute. But how did you receive it? Were you like standing up, shouting at the screen? Um,
For Hulk,
yeah.
no, I wasn't quite doing that. I was really happy though. I think look, it'd be different if he was winning the race, and that would have been really something. I'm trying to get too greedy there, but uh, you know, if maybe in Nico's world, if the McLaren drivers take each other out, who knows? That could have been something. That would have been something indeed. This reminds me of the time when Kevin Magnussen got pole at, was it at a sprint in
In
Brazil a couple of
Brazil,
years
yeah.
ago?
Well, was it the
Yeah,
sprint? I thought he got it in the
was
Grand
it a
Prix in the
sprint
end.
or a race? It was a
But
Grand Prix.
I seem
We
to
knew it would
remember George Russell sticking it in
exactly.
the wall and allowing
Right.
Magnussen to get pole. Oh,
Exactly. So we knew that would only last for about half a lap,
yeah.
but it was fun nonetheless. I mean, this was amazing. I mean, Nico started P19, and to be honest with you, I was not keeping track of him until the very end. Like there was just so much happening all over the place
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
I really just couldn't even keep track of it. But I thought it was a brilliant race for him. I'm so happy. I'm sure it comes as a great relief, no, like to at least get a podium. And he's a Le Mans winner too, no? So it's not he's got some credentials. It's not like he's a scrub.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is a nice opportunity, at least, to look back on some of Nico Hulkenberg's highlights. Like what makes him special, and why is it that Formula One teams keep coming back to him? Because it's not just that he's reliable. Like reliable makes him sound like he's like a really boring driver, but he's not. He's really, really good. Like just just in Formula One on its own, and in the teams that he's driven for, because he's not had the opportunity to be in a team that can actually do something very often. I think the highlights for him was that he was at Renault when it was a works team, and actually had aspirations of going forwards. At the somewhere within one of their 5-year plans, and he had Carlos Sainz against him for one season. And then he was up against Daniel Ricciardo. And okay, the Daniel Ricciardo stint didn't go brilliantly, but he did show Carlos Sainz the way home. And Sainz, look at him now. And I think he's always been there or thereabouts. And like you can always, I didn't say that reliability was the most impressive thing about him, but you could rely on him to bring the car home, often in a position that you didn't really think the car deserved. But the podium thing, that monkey on his back, I've always felt has been something that although he was so nonchalant about it after the race, it's actually something that he's worn on his back quite heavily, because every time he's been in a position to get that maiden podium, he's effed it up somehow. Like the key ones for me are the 2012 Brazil. That was the one where that Crofty and Brundle brought up in comms, and they were quite generous to him. But the reason that he didn't get the podium that day, and actually it wasn't just a podium, he was going to win that race, is because Lewis Hamilton was coming back past him, and or was it the other way around? I think he was coming back past Lewis Hamilton, and he just crunched into the side of him, and put them both out of the race. Just dumb. And then in 2019, he was in a podium position at that really wet German Grand Prix. I don't even remember it. It's the race where the Mercedes team like really quite arrogantly turned up in a special livery and are all wearing lederhosen and stuff. And Mercedes had like an absolute shocker of a race. It was awful. But he was in a podium position and he dumped it in the wall, just like everybody else. I remember in comms that day, Martin Brundle saying this is Nico Hulkenberg's problem. Like he always finds himself in a position where he could actually get the result he wants, but he manages to not get himself the result. And part of the reason I think that he's never found himself in a top tier team, other than that stint at Renault, is partly because of his height, but that's not a problem anymore. But partly because I think a lot of team bosses look at what he does when he's in a position to score big points or a big result and just go, he doesn't quite have the mentality for our team. But if he's managed to knock that on the head this weekend.
He has, and his podium also reminds you of how brutal a sport this is, right? I mean, we're seeing drivers getting churned in and out like nothing, right? This is like a factory mill in some ways. So for him to get that, and by the way, Shez, he is now P9 in the driver standing, ahead of some really with some good company. Really, it's the 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens, 2 Mercedes drivers, all top 3 teams, and then Max, and then it's Alex and him. Like it's crazy. So he has been consistent throughout the season too. And he's ahead of the likes of Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz. I mean, you name it, they're all the drivers way behind him. Truly deserve. By the way, we should also give a shout out to Kick Sauber, right? Sauber for the last year. I believe next year it's going to be Audi, right?
Who are we going to give kudos to? Just tell me.
Isn't it Kick Sauber?
Yeah, but who there? Who's in
Oh,
charge?
Jonathan Wheatley. Ever since he's joined, it's
we're going to give it to Jonathan Wheatley.
Really, you're going to do this? You're going to give Mattia? I mean, this is quite the bookend Mattia race. I mean, I have memories of Mattia from the British Grand Prix. I mean, this time he was sipping on a glass of an adult beverage, right?
That's right.
Enjoying this win as if he had anything to do with it.
No, maybe he was wagging his finger at Nico afterwards, saying,
I was going to say,
do more of that, Nico.
And the side note, Charles would have deserved that finger wagging in this particular race, not back then. But yeah, I mean, I think kudos to them. I mean, Sauber have just been amazing this year. Like we've pretty much they've been laughing stocks, right, for the last couple of years, and they're doing much better than some of the even more formidable teams that have kind of been there. So a team that's in transition, you do have to wonder now, Shez. No, I mean, this is the team that Carlos Sainz didn't pick, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, next year is going to be different, but still, I mean, and that could have been signs on the podium. I mean, effectively, no, maybe, Anyway, that's it's too far of a side note.
I mean,
For those,
I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad it wasn't. Just put it that way.
just in case you're keeping track, since I'm on this spree of stats, right? I mean, Kick Sauber is only like 18 points at Drift of Williams. Like that's a very winnable thing. Like by the way, in the P6 in the constructors too. Like that's it's pretty amazing. And I get it that Aston's bending it in this year and all that, but who would have known that would be the case?
Yeah, yeah. It's a strange one at Williams. Maybe we should come back and talk about that
Maybe
at
both,
some
yeah,
point. But
yeah.
but they seem to be a one car team in terms of at one race, one car will do well and the other car just won't. Um, and they've had their string of DNFs now, haven't they? They what was it? They
Yeah.
scored 1 point
Last,
in the last 4 races,
yeah.
just because one or other of them have had engine failures and have been falling off the road. So it's not been a great run for Williams. So I think once they get some reliability back, it might be different. But no, look, really happy for Nico. Like super happy for Nico. For somebody that's watched him for a while and always thought really highly of him. As usual, he fits my little rule for being good in Formula One, being a rookie GP2 champion as he is. Um, his career's always been one that I thought, what could have been. And perhaps if, like, ironically, if he was maybe like 3 or 4 inches shorter, he might
It would be
he
different.
might have had a completely different career. But it's on these things that F1 hinges. Right. So anyway, Nico, well done. Congratulations to you and your daughter. I hope you guys have fun playing with your Lego trophy. It's real. Honestly, it's real. Um, let's talk about the not so
Mm.
great, perhaps the ugly of this race. The McLarens. Nico,
What's it ugly? They had a 1-2. What are you talking about?
the way it happened, the way they got that result, I thought was a bit ugly. But let's
You're
start with
McLaren. How can that be ugly? That's a 1-2 shares in any order. What difference does that make?
because well, anyway, well,
Are you like this is Team Oscar and you talking about? That's what you want to talk like? Be real, man. Come on, be real.
but the result was not it was not a pretty way to get that 1-2. Let's be honest, right? It was
Yes, they were getting a 1-2 either way. What are you talking about?
yeah,
Like what the penalty made this much difference in terms of
of
the
their over.
construction.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
want to talk about drivers, and it's they didn't do anything wrong. In fact, I mean, I guess in the end though, when they went on slicks, they really didn't need to go. I was very
But
fearful.
about
If
it's
one of them had been the car, then that would have been game over.
but they had
That would have been.
they had like 30 seconds over the rest of
I know
everybody
they
else.
didn't have to.
They
They
do
could
what they
have
wanted.
basically ran on inters the whole way. They would have been fine. Like that's all they needed to do, really.
That's definitely a way to run that race. But I guess what I mean is it's still another race in which McLaren get a 1-2, and we've still got stuff to talk about. Like it should
Fair
be,
enough, but
it should be that there's nothing else to talk about
but
when it comes to McLaren, and we're just talking about everybody third onwards.
yes.
But there's still something to say. Go on.
But can I just tell you, last year at the British Grand Prix, we were railing against McLaren for all. I mean, this is by all means, they've corrected every woe that they had
Well, have
this
they?
race last year. I mean,
Have they?
we were on it for them. Like they had the chance to double stack last year. They didn't. They didn't pit Oscar when they should have. All those things were there last year. That none of those were there. It's not their
Okay.
fault that
Okay.
Oscar got a
Okay.
penalty.
We need to talk about that because I saw that in the race and I was like, cool.
So
They've done this. They've learned from last year, but they still had a dodgy pit stop. Lando's pit stop, sticking front tire, and the only reason they were able to do what they did with their double stack, which they still messed up, was because they had Max Verstappen between the two of them, and there was enough of a gap that they didn't have to even think about it. It was a complete no-brainer. But
fair enough.
but I'm going to let McLaren off the hook because they now got a generational talent of a car that means they can pretty much do what the hell they want.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They
Right?
could have done anything this race.
They could have done that entire race in reverse and still won. But Ammar, let's focus first of all on Lando. Lando wins his first ever home Grand Prix, and the Lando stand went absolutely bloody mental. I mean, it's like a psychedelic fever dream when you look at it though, with that helmet based merch, but they were pretty crazy and they were pretty happy. And Lando got his win. What do
I
you think?
mean, he got his win, and I would imagine you, as a Brit, probably got the result you wanted. Now, I understand it may not be the circumstances, and it may not be the driver, but I mean, you have three Brit drivers that potentially could have won this race, at least when it started, right? I mean, maybe when the weekend started, I suppose. And you got one of them, and look, sometimes you got to be a little bit lucky, but look, in Lando's credit, he didn't put a foot wrong, he didn't do anything wrong, so who are we to take anything away from that shine? Like, he got the win, he would have been P2 at minimum, right? The reality is he would have passed Max at some point because the car was just set up so well for these conditions, and to be honest, Max's car was just not set up for these conditions. So I think the combination of two, I think they were going to get a 1-2 anyway, right? The question was what order, and we're probably going to get to the meaty part, which is you telling me that Oscar should not have gotten a penalty. But for Lando's part, he did what he was supposed to. Like, there's nothing to it. I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty standard race, like pretty simple race, I would say, in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lando did an Oscar, and it's a weird dynamic that's happening now between the two McLaren drivers in that it the driver that is fastest, over the entirety of the weekend, even is not guaranteed to be the driver that walks home with the spoils. Like, for example, in Saudi or in Canada, Lando was demonstrably the quicker driver of the two of them, and yet Oscar was the one that finishes ahead on both occasions. And on this occasion, Oscar was clearly the faster driver of the two of them, and yet through something
Not
that
at the end.
Oscar did, um, he ended up not winning the race. And, okay, I take your point about, okay, not at the end on the slicks, but in reality, Oscar had the pace to win that race. It wasn't like he
I
was.
don't know. I mean, do you think he did? Like, okay, let's say there is no penalty, right? And the two McLaren drivers are close enough. I saw Oscar go off track a lot more in the end, and I think that could have potentially cost him.
I still think
And-
he would have won that race. I think everybody fell off the road at some point, didn't they? Even
No, yeah,
Lando, even Lando did. Like Lando, at the corner where he got past Oscar, was that right? No, it was somebody else. It looked like it was some. Was it him?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if it was him. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't see a lot of evidence. You're right. It could have been the case, but
Yeah,
there
I
probably
think
wasn't as
ultimately,
dramatic either.
yeah, I think ultimately he probably had the pace to win it. Um, but one big error, and Ammar, I'm not gonna sit here and defend it. Oscar shouldn't have done what he did. Like, absolutely shouldn't have driven the way he did at that safety car. Yeah,
But
that penalty
there's
was
a but
that
coming.
penalty was fully deserved, and that's why
It
he.
was deserved, you're
Yeah, of
saying?
course it
Okay.
was, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's why he didn't win that race. It is purely his error that did it. Um, Perhaps McLaren should have told him that maybe that method of leading the pack round at the safety car restart wasn't the way to do it, because I don't know if they were warned about it, but there was a little article in the race today that suggested that the stewards, not the stewards, the clerk of the course was already looking at um,
At 17.
yeah,
Okay.
at the first safety car restart, where Oscar again braked quite abruptly, but just because nobody went past him, they kind of said, "Okay, we'll leave it." I don't know if they told McLaren that they were looking at Oscar at that point, but he did it again. He did it a second time, and they just said, "Yeah, that's 10 seconds. You've done it twice now," and it looks really egregious because of the way that Max sort of sailed past him. I don't know if he did that for effect, but whether he did that or not, yeah, Oscar deserved that
Well,
penalty, I thought.
I would agree with you, and I think the best sort of evidence for that came actually from Nico Hulkenberg in the cool down room when he told Oscar, like, yeah, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here. Like, he basically said something to the effect of, well, that has a big effect on us back. And we've had races where that's happened, right? I can't remember what race it was, but somebody did the same thing on the front straight. And then there were like a bunch of
The
cars crashing.
the
It had to be like a couple years ago.
Tuscan Grand Prix 2020,
There you go.
Valtteri
That's
Bottas
it.
did it.
That's
And
it.
then
Piastri
do
did
you
it.
remember? And there was like a 4-car
It
pileup.
was crazy. It was and pretty risky. And I
Yeah,
think there was
yeah,
I think it
yeah.
was Albon or somebody who was basically like stranded in the middle. And then there was another driver coming from behind that could have rear-ended him and like
Your
a really, really
Science ended up in the wall that day, didn't he?
signs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was something like that. But I mean, I've heard it from a lot of
It
people
can't
say
have been
this is
Albon,
again.
though. Sorry for the
I don't know
aside.
who it was,
It
but
can't
I
have been
think
Albon
there's
because
somebody who
Albon,
would have got like
well, because
completely.
Albon finished on the podium that race, didn't
Somebody that my memory fails me in terms of that, but I do remember the visual of this one car just being stranded, and there was going to be
he?
that car was going to get it was going to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
doomed.
yeah,
It could have
yeah,
been
yeah,
really,
yeah,
really bad.
yeah.
And the reality is that in a race like this, it could have been way worse too. So maybe Max is exaggerated. You can maybe put a feather in his cap for causing that, although he came undone very quickly with that too. So there's that. But the reality, it's a deserved penalty. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of Oscar fans say, "Oh no, this is again a British bias thing." But I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah,
well,
it's a load of nonsense, man.
didn't involve Lando, right? It was not two non-British drivers, if that's what you want to do it. Like
Yeah,
I don't understand that. So now they're all of a sudden citing Oscar and not Max. Like that's crazy. God, blows my mind. But whatever. That's a penalty, man. And Shez, I thought of it like if it was Lewis or Charles, would I have thought the same? And I'm like, yeah, that's
yeah.
maybe 5 seconds only, I would say, but I don't know. I don't know what the rule book says, so perhaps 10 seconds is the right penalty. But
No, apparently it is for driving erratically under the behind the safety car. It's a slam dunk 10-second penalty. So there wasn't anything else they were going to give him. I think the stewards actually said that in their statement afterwards. But it didn't stop Mark Webber um, and what's his name, the McLaren strategy guy.
Oh,
Randy Singh,
Randy,
isn't it? Randy
Randy Singh.
Singh, yeah. So they went off and had a chat to the stewards afterwards, but nothing doing.
I mean, there was a lot of evidence too, and a lot of people brought up Russell in Canada, but
Which is completely
this,
different. Yeah,
this is like
completely
apples and
different.
oranges, really.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very different, and he clearly did break all of a sudden. And look, sometimes visuals can be deceptive, but you could see, like, look, if Max really wanted to do it, he could have ran right into Oscar, and then what would we have been saying then? Like that would have been a different discussion altogether, right?
yeah.
I think that's that. But look, even then, this was lap 21, 22, like 24, whenever it came up, like there was still more than half the race there.
Yeah, exactly. And just for the avoidance of doubt, in Canada, the reason that wasn't given was because they were still under a safety car, so the lights on the safety car hadn't gone off. So it's accepted that drivers are going to try and keep temperature in their tires by braking and accelerating. So what George Russell did there, and actually with half the brake pressure that Oscar put into his brake pedal on Sunday, that was never going to be a penalty, and it was only really Red Bull that were trying to make something out of it that was never there. Whereas on Sunday at the British Grand Prix, Piastri it was so blatant what he did. He did it twice, and he got away with it once. It wasn't going to happen twice. But it does disappoint me a little bit because I think Oscar had the opportunity there, but for that one slightly idiotic move to extend his championship lead going into the summer. Whereas now it's completely flipped the other way, and actually the momentum, which had already been building slightly towards Lando, he's had despite the DNF, actually he was a quicker driver in Canada. He managed to make that count in Austria, and now against the run of play, he's won a race at the British Grand Prix as well. And it's all these little things. It's winning on your off days that win you championships. And I thought that's what Oscar had in his locker, and he just didn't. He didn't deliver it at a time when he needed to, and it just takes the shine off him a little bit and makes me wonder what is he going to do over the course of the next 12 races or so.
I don't think. I mean, I don't. Oscar doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who would do erratic stuff.
But he looked pretty upset, didn't he? Like,
I mean, he would be upset. Shez, you would be upset too.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Honestly, like he has. I mean, it's also a weird penalty in that it's not necessarily against another driver, although you could argue that Max had a role to play in it. I suppose if you really wanted to make that argument, but
I don't think so.
but it wasn't anything. So like, it's not even like you can pin it down to like, oh, guy X caused this to happen or something like that. You can't really. It's not wheel to wheel. It's not any subjective. Like I had the corner first, yada yada. It's like so I'm sure he'll go back and look at it and be like, okay, maybe I just don't do that the next time around. And I believe that he genuinely did not know that he was being as aggressive in braking as he was. So I don't put it down to it. And look, his strategy worked because Max spun right away. I mean, it did work.
Mate, it was a
So,
brilliant. It was brilliant if it wasn't illegal.
yeah, correct. It was so I genuinely believe that this might be one of those sort of like, you go through these phases of recognizing some of these mistakes that happen. And I mean, like the racecraft
it's 7 points that he hasn't got, right?
Yeah.
And if that and if yeah, exactly. And if at the end of the season it's
Yeah.
that number of
I mean,
points that costs him, he's going to be like, should I have had quite as heavy a left foot? But again, I am not absolving Oscar of any blame. This is his fault, and it is he and he alone that has cost himself that win. It's just disappointing to see. But I did also quite enjoy his the presence to when he's chasing Lando after that pit stop after he served for 10 seconds. He's like, well, if you guys don't think this is a penalty, why don't we swap each other?
That's amazing, right? Oh my God. I mean, you know what? There's a part of me that wanted to see that actual communication. Like, there was amazing if McLaren went back to Lando and said, well, Lando, we don't think that Oscar should have got that penalty. So
let's just swap you guys around.
Been amazing. Oh my God. Sometimes I want these things to happen. Like, I just want there to be like a whisperer that kind of does these things like, hey, Lando, I don't think Oscar should have got that penalty. You mind switching? It's like
Lando,
that's all that would be there.
And then he just does it anyway. Yeah, sure,
and he
fine.
does that anyway. Then we would be railing against Lando and McLaren. Like that's what we would be doing. Like that. So the content creator in me wants that, but obviously there's a little bit of a reach, man. Like if I'm Lando receiving that, I'm like, hell,
but maybe there's a little bit of Oscar who's like, you know what, Lando's a bit of a soft touch. Maybe he'll just do it anyway. Like, cool, let's go.
While we're at it, why don't we just put Max in P2 also? Like, let's do that again.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. But you know what? It's going to be fine. 12 more races. They're separated by 8 points. It's not a big deal. I mean, there's so much racing ahead. And let's just be honest, it's between the two of them anyway. Like it's over. There's no Max. There's none of that is happening. Like unless these two guys decide to crash into each other like 2-3 races in a row.
Yeah. I mean, that's what needs to happen, right? And
that's what needs.
The problem for everybody else is that the cars they are driving just consistently are not quick enough. Like there now isn't really a track coming up. Maybe Monza where things can change up a little bit.
That's one track.
But do you know what I mean? But it's the only track maybe where somebody might have a better result.
And the reality is they're all going to focus on 26 now. I mean, that's the takeaway. Like if you're not McLaren, like it's done deal, man. It's not. And even if you're McLaren, I guess you can focus on 26 at this point. Like,
yeah.
I mean, the frustrating thing is, Shez, none of these teams have shown us the ability to overcome what McLaren are doing. I mean, that's just the takeaway, right? Like Red Bull don't have anything up their sleeve. Yes, they can rely on Max, but that's only going to get them pole on a Saturday. It's not going to work over the course of the race. Ferrari have no answers. Mercedes, I don't know what the heck they're doing either. Like they look like they could have been there, but I don't know. They're all kind of like, so there's no competition whatsoever.
For me, McLaren have done what Red Bull did, right? So McLaren have done with a mechanical platform what Red Bull did at the beginning of this regulation set with their aero setup, right?
Right.
Like they recognized, Red Bull that is, very quickly that piling on a heap of downforce when you've got when you've got a platform that pitches and dives is not going to give you a quick, consistent car, where everybody else was just trying to pile on all the downforce greedily that they'd seen in the sim and in the wind tunnel, and then they ended up bouncing their way off the track. But that's now come round full circle, and now McLaren have this magic car where everyone's trying to guess what the magic bullet is. but it isn't. There isn't a magic bullet. It's everything that's come together that's meant that their car is able to look after its tires better than anybody else. And there isn't like a magic bullet, like mechanical setup that somebody else can pull out of the hat that's suddenly going to usurp them. And that's all it is. All the other cars can be good over one lap potentially, but they can't do what the McLaren does in races, which is to bring its tires up to temperature quickly, maintain it without killing them, and maintain that across a race. It's just
Yeah,
that's why they're in a
it's over.
championship on their own.
No, it's over. I mean, they're way ahead in the constructors. Nobody's going to catch them. And the reality is, again, one of these teams will put up a race win here and there, but consistently to do it, maybe you say like 3, 4 races, it's not happening. I mean, Red Bull have 2 wins, right? Mercedes have 1, and then everything else is between the 9 wins are between the 2 McLaren drivers, and that's just it. So they can have fun, and I would like to now see these 2 guys get into it a little bit more because I think they can totally afford to do that. They could have 2 or 3 races of just banging wheels, maybe a double DNF once in a while, just to make it a little bit more interesting. It'll be fun. Let's do that. Like I'm all for that.
Spain 2016.
Spain 2016. That's what we want.
Yeah,
that's what we want.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Who really wants that though? Okay, look, let's have a quick chat about Max Verstappen. What do you think of his performance this weekend?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, so here's what I want to get out there. I'm going to ask you really, like, what are we going to do? Are we going to praise Max for Saturday, and then we should supposedly, if we're going to keep the heat, we should call him out on what he did on Sunday, no? Or are you now just going to take the path, and by you I mean not you, but you the viewer, are you going to take the path of, well, that car was just set up for a dry race, and therefore that's what happened, and so we can forgive Max for that? Like, which one is it going to be? Like, because I see a lot of people like say on Saturday, never bet against Max, blah blah, boom 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 boom, this thing. And the reality is points are handed out on Sunday. And say what you want about what Oscar did, Max failed. I mean, he spun. He literally spun, and he spun out into a non-point scoring position, which he then of course recovered. But I don't know what to make of.
I mean,
Ammar, tell me. I have more questions and answers.
I mean, it can be both though, can't it? That car, not that it was set up for a dry race, or that it was set up for Saturday, although it was, right. That skinny rear wing, I think actually this is the best demonstration of them setting up a car that only Max could drive, because having that skinny rear wing essentially moves the aero balance forward. It puts everything on the front end, and Silverstone is full of really fast corners. So Max is going to be absolute demon on turning, and he's going to be able to live with the zero grip on the rear end because he just has that knack, and it's going to give him what he needs over one lap. But the problem is a lack of overall downforce is going to kill your tires over a race. And actually, Max did admirably well to keep himself in the position that he was in up until the point at which that safety car ended, and he ended up turning the car around. And the problem is, you do that once, bang, your tire temperature goes, and then you're chasing your tail trying to get that back. And it's in a car that's now in the pack, not behind just 1 or 2 drivers. And with the best will in the world, even Max isn't going to be able to bring that back. Although he did, because once the track did dry up and the car was a bit more predictable, of all the runners, he did manage to fight his way forward and finished 5th, which is not a bad result, I don't think, given where he was after the first safety car. Wasn't he like 8th or 9th at one point?
He was below that too. I think he was outside the points, and then he fought his back. So it's a brilliant. But look, you're also fighting lesser cars at that point, right? So I get it. So I'm with you. I'm with you, Shez. I'm with you in doing nuance, but we don't do nuance on Saturdays. So I don't know how you can do nuance.
Okay, so one thing I will fight back against, right? Because there was a whole heap of people posting videos of the Red Bull on the Friday in free practice, where on cold tires, at the end of a stint where the tires are dead, Max is understeering all over the place, and they're like, "Oh, look at this! Like, this is an understeering mess. Oh my god, Red Bull, they're so rubbish." And the only reason we do anything is because Max is able to pull something out of the bag on a Saturday. He's so amazing. That's not an individual effort, right? Like you can only drive a car the way that physics allows you to drive a car, and if the car is an understeering mess on Friday and you do nothing to it, it will still be an understeering mess on Saturday. But it's credit to the trackside team at Red Bull that they're able to go through that data and pick out the things they need to do to make the car better, so that by FP3 actually it's competitive. And on Saturday, that's when it's just about in the window where Max can show a bit of magic. But if it still looked like it did in FP2, it wasn't going to do what he did in qualifying on Saturday. It's just, there has to be a bit of both, right? The car has to play a part as well. So it's not just Max suddenly magicking out a lap out of nowhere. There's a gradual build up of the setup improvements that allow him to do that come Q3.
So I mean, and my takeaway from this is the car is just not that good, right? We cannot change our opinion based on the car being put on pole, which we've seen happen every once in a while. Max does, so we give him credit for that. And then I agree with you. As they say, you're never as good as you think you are, and never as bad as you think you are, right? So it's kind of one of those things. Like this season, Red Bull simply do not have the car, and McLaren simply have the car. It's both things going in sort of opposite directions that has sort of exacerbated the issue that Max is seeing. So he could pull out a race win or two, but then that's no different than George Russell pulling out a race win in Canada, or maybe a Ferrari driver pulls out a win in Monza, or in Singapore and stuff like that, like where there's some strength there, right? So that's pretty much the indictment on Max and Red Bull, and I fear now that that exit clause might be well and truly in play now. Maybe it's a debate for another day, but
hold for horses. We'll
it
definitely
does
have a
gotta
chat
be
about that.
Horses. Speaking of horses.
So okay, Ammar, I think that's probably the stuff that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
We'll have a chat about Ferrari in a separate video. So stay tuned for that, because there'll be some stuff. I don't know why you're crying. I don't think things are looking so bad. And we'll give you our thoughts on Max to Mercedes and what that means for silly season 2025/2026. But for now, we'll leave it there. As usual, please like, please subscribe, please leave us a comment. We'll read every single one. We'll reply to as many as we possibly can. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Later.